Hey guys, my name is Erin. I'm so excited to be having a fantastic interview with a man who has a lot of experience in civic engagement. He's waiting upstairs, so let's go check it out. I'm Erin Lashley here for Acquai, a social network based on goals and accountability. Using the Acquai app, you can track your progress towards various goals while encouraging others in their pursuits. Acquai is all about self-improvement and empowerment, and in that spirit, we have decided to interview local leaders in the community in order to see how they serve as role models and vision leaders. Today, I'm pleased to meet Greg Stanton, two-term former mayor of Phoenix and current contender to represent Arizona in the United States House of Representatives. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on. I'm really excited
Absolutely.
about this. When I learned about Acquai, I'm really excited about the concept, and I told the folks, let me be supportive, let me do it. So I'm glad to be here.
Yes,
yeah,
awesome,
why not? Yeah.
Awesome. Well, as you were the former mayor of Phoenix, can you tell us, how did you decide that you wanted to do that? What was that process like for you?
Well, I didn't grow up in a political family or anything like that. In fact, I grew up in West Phoenix and just kind of a regular, normal, working class
Really?
family.
Okay.
My dad sold shoes at JCPenney for 35 years.
Wow,
So I didn't know anybody in politics or anything, but for some reason, maybe started in high school. Government class, inspired by some of the great teachers I'm lucky enough to have, I started thinking maybe I could do a career in public service.
Yeah.
And I continued in college, and then I went on to law school, came back to Phoenix, and you know what? I had the bug.
I love
And so I didn't know anyone in politics, but you know what I did? Probably like a lot of people watching this, they don't have a lot of contacts. You make your own.
Yeah,
You go meet
yeah.
people, you go volunteer on campaigns or for nonprofits that you believe in. You build your own Rolodex or your own contact list. And then when the time came, when a seat came open in the city council, I looked in the mirror and said, why not me?
Right.
I'm going to give it a shot.
Yeah.
And I ran, and I outworked all my opponents, and I won.
Wow.
And a few years later, I'm the mayor. So Phoenix is a great town in that regard. It's wide open. And certainly one of the things I want to get across to anybody who's watching this video is that in Phoenix, and like a lot of other communities, the only thing holding you back is yourself. Your own willingness to work hard, get a good reputation, build those commitments. And you know what? At some point, you just got to go for it. And that's what I decided in my life. I was going to go for it. And for me, it worked out. And it's been the best decision, career decision I ever made.
I love that. Now, sir, tell me, what were some of your greatest accomplishments while you were in office as mayor?
Okay, and I should note that when you're mayor, you can't get things done by yourself. You got to be a good team player. I've got members of the city council that I was lucky enough to have a great relationship. So anything that are my accomplishments are really team accomplishments.
Sure.
And that's an important lesson for anybody watching the video as well, is like, you know, almost nothing gets done by one person. You've got to be a good team player. But I would say we were lucky in Phoenix. I believe in public transportation. My dad took the city bus to his job selling shoes every day. So for families like mine, working class families, great public transportation can be a difference maker, whether you can actually make it or not.
Yeah.
So I put on the ballot a big transportation initiative to increase light rail and improve bus service, and improve dial-a-ride service for people that need mobility independence.
Yeah.
We actually funded 1,000 miles of bike lanes in the city of Phoenix.
That's awesome.
It was a risk.
Yeah.
You know, do you put something like that on the ballot? You may or may not win. If you don't win,
Sure.
it's going to make you look like you're not successful as a mayor. But you know what? I said, if it's the right thing to do and it advances my city, let's take a risk. We put it on the ballot. It won. The people of Phoenix overwhelmingly said yes.
That's awesome.
So that was a pretty good team accomplishment, not just by me and the city council, but by the city as a whole. Also, President Obama challenged cities all across the country to try to end chronic homelessness among our veteran population.
Wow, okay.
And so we accepted the challenge. All the other cities in the country were trying to accomplish the same goal. Guess what? We did it first.
Wow.
We were acknowledged by the president as the city that was the first city in the United States to end chronic homelessness
That's awesome.
among our veteran population, which obviously we have to do to honor our
Right.
veterans, including especially those that have served in combat positions. They come home, and sadly, because of a lot of different circumstances, often PTSD, are not able to fully integrate back into civilian life, and they end up on the streets. It's an American tragedy.
Wow.
The least we could do was to roll up our sleeves and work hard to try to end chronic homelessness among our veteran population. And then I'd say just the larger picture was just build a more innovative export-based economy. Phoenix's economy was based too much on real estate.
Yeah.
It wasn't a very balanced economy, more susceptible to the vagaries of the market. And so when there was a recession, we got hammered in the recession.
Wow.
And so we need to build a higher educated workforce, more jobs based on research and science and healthcare.
Yeah.
And we've done it. So we actually have a much more resilient economy. So that's
great.
not really one thing, but it's something I'm
One
very
of
proud
many.
of, that when I left the mayor's job, the city was in much better fiscal shape than it was before.
That's great. Now, as a team, because I know you said you do everything as a team, which I admire that, what would you say are some of the biggest challenges, or what were some of the biggest challenges that you guys faced while you were in office?
Well, I would say, look, and this is advice whether you're in politics or business or education or whatever it may be. Look, you have got to be a professional. And part of being a professional means when you work on a team, yeah, one of your teammates once in a while is going to do something that kind of angers you, you know?
Right.
And you're going to make a decision, do I still want to work with that person, or am I going to take my toys and go home, if you will?
Yeah.
Look, you've got to keep your eye on the prize, you know, moving, in my case, moving the city forward, advancing us economically, making sure people were treated with dignity and respect, make people feel welcome in your city. And if I had teammates that had that common goal, yeah, you're going to have your ups and downs. You got to check your ego at the door.
Right.
Be willing to share credit. That's a big part of it. Listen to your teammates, not act like you have all of the answers. Nobody has all the answers. So being a good teammate means that you know your role, you play your role well, and you get along with everybody, and you're willing on occasion, when people maybe do something that you're not a fan of, you still got to stick with that teammate. They're part of what you're trying to, part of the team that's trying to get things done for your city. So everything that we did at the City of Phoenix, I'm the leader because you're the mayor.
Right.
You've got to set that vision and put the right teammates in place. But once you have those teammates in place, you got to work as well together as possible. And that's a skill set that you know, part of it's, I don't know if it's emotional maturity, if that's the right word, but part of it is just really understanding that advancing the lives of people in your city, that is the goal, not, you know, promoting yourself or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. So what's next for you in your career?
Well, as we tape this very interview, I made an important decision. I left the job as mayor because I do want to serve our community in the United States Congress. I won't make a pitch for myself on the video other than to say that I do believe that we need to make some positive changes in America. Unfortunately, I think we're headed kind of in the wrong direction right now. I believe that the United States standing on the global stage has really been hurt, and I think we need to do things that really bring the United States back up to its proper position as the global leader on a variety of issues. So hopefully I'll be able to represent our community. Now in this case, not just Phoenix, because if I win, then I get to represent Tempe, and Mesa, and Scottsdale, and even Chandler as a member of Congress. And so, you know, I'm beyond the policy stuff. I'm an American, and it'd be really cool to serve in the United States House of Representatives, serve the people of this country. So I'm excited about it.
That's great. Now, what do you hope to accomplish as Congressman once you get in that position?
Okay. Well, I've got a variety of key issues. I think if you represent this community, particularly with our wonderful diversity that we're lucky to have here, you better support real immigration reform, comprehensive immigration reform. I believe it's going to be a great thing for our local economy, including, by the way, a DREAM Act. So these young people that are real leaders just happen not to be born here, but they were raised here, and so they are an Arizonan, they're an American in so many ways because all of their growing up and their social network and their family network is here. We need to make sure that the people that qualify under the DREAM Act are able to become citizens and take the rightful leadership role in America. So I'm excited about immigration reform and the possibility that has for our community. I'm excited about passing a clean DREAM Act so these young, talented people can take their rightful place as leaders in our community. I also believe that we need to do more on the issue of climate change. That climate change is real. It impacts my community, Arizona, in terms of extreme heat, in terms of drought and ongoing drought. Even the forest fires that you read about are in part caused by climate change. So we have to do a lot more in that regard. And I do believe that the administration has taken us in the wrong direction because they took us out of the Paris Climate Accord, which is an agreement of all the countries across the globe to advance that area. I think it's really unfortunate that we headed in the wrong direction. And of course, you can't go to Congress right now unless you are passionate about the issue of getting people the health care that they deserve and the opportunity to see the doctor of their choice at an affordable rate, and to really make sure that people have real access to health care. That's an important issue as well.
Okay. Now, what has the campaign process been like for you thus far? Difficult, easy, challenging?
I love it. Look, it's a lot of work. People always ask, aren't you tired? I'm like, no. I mean, if you want to be successful, you got to put in the time. You've got to earn it.
Yep.
Yeah, and there's nothing glamorous about politics.
Yeah.
It's just a lot of work. Knocking on doors, knocking in campaign signs, calling everybody you know, calling lots of people you don't know, and asking for their support.
Yeah.
And people want to see you, they want to touch you, they want to feel you. They don't want to just vote for some person they saw on a TV advertisement. They want to get to know you. And I'm a hands-on candidate, so that just takes a lot of time and effort, and I love it. You know, if you were to put on a piece of paper and put a line down the middle, the pros of running for political office and the cons of running for political office, I can already tell you, by any rational measure, the cons outweigh the pros.
I believe that.
But the opportunity to serve the people of your community, to really make a difference, a positive difference, is such a positive thing that for me it way outweighs the long hours and the low pay and the fact that you occasionally get yelled at by people because they're mad about the decisions. The opportunity to serve is just such a special thing. I love it, and for me, I can't imagine doing anything else with my life. It's really been a blessing to be the opportunity to serve the community.
I love that. Well, you mentioned a little bit earlier about your childhood. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? Maybe how many siblings you had,
Sure, of course,
where you grew up, where you went to school.
All right, so I grew up in West Phoenix at 39th Avenue in Dunlap, went to public schools in that part of town, and I was so lucky. Here's why. My mom and dad, they didn't have a lot of money. I mentioned my dad was a shoe salesman. My mom was a part-time English teacher.
Wow. But
you know what they did? Every free moment they had, they were serving others.
Wow.
In our case, it was through our church. So they organized a group of wonderful volunteers from our church. They called it the Christian Needs Network.
Okay.
And everybody in our church knew that you would deliver food, clothing, diapers, shoes to our house. We would store that stuff, and then my parents would work with churches in the West Valley to try to get those items to migrant workers that worked in the fields, that were like doing what it takes to put food on our table.
Yeah.
All I knew growing up was, you know, to love God with all your heart and to serve others and help others. That's so.
Right.
My parents did that for over 30 years, and no one ever gave them an award or gave them a dinner, but they would thought it would have been crazy to do so. They just felt like if there's a need in the community, fill it.
Right.
Don't make a big deal about it. Just serve your fellow humans if you can. So for me, growing up in that environment, my brothers and sisters, you mentioned how many I have 2 sisters and 1 brother.
Okay, that's like my family.
I love them. They're so committed to community.
Yeah.
My little sister Maria has been a special education teacher in the West Side School District, the Cartwright District, for 20 years. My brother, he was on a corporate path, but then he decided to shift back and go back into education.
Okay.
So he was a teacher and then became a principal. Now he's superintendent of the very school district that we grew up in in West Phoenix. My older sister, Susanna, does community service work for Channel 15 News, which is a local news station. So she does all of their community stuff. So everybody in my family is committed to community, and it's all because of the values that I grew up in. And that's why I said earlier, you know, you don't make a lot of money when you're in politics, but you know what? Who cares? You get to serve other people and help other people. And for me, this is kind of my way of giving back, and I just wouldn't have it any other way. So I was so lucky that my mom and dad had those values. They didn't talk a lot about it, they showed their faith by their actions,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
by just, I jokingly tell my dad, my mom's in heaven, but my dad, I joke about him saying, when I grew up, I didn't learn a lot about the theology of my church. Just, I learned about service, helping
Yeah.
others.
Yeah.
And don't talk about it, just show who you are by your actions.
Love it. I love that. So there's a lot of students watching this interview. Can you tell us what were some of your greatest challenges while you were in high school? Some people were getting bullied. Some people don't, do well
geez.
academically. What was the experience like for you?
Okay, that's a really interesting question. Look, I grew up in a loving, supportive family, so I'm very lucky. And I know not every young person watching this is lucky enough to grow up in those circumstances.
Sure.
So maybe they don't have the whole family support system, so they got to turn to other relatives or the community as a whole. And it's important for me, as in my political position, to try to make sure that we have as supportive of the community as possible. For example, I'm a big supporter of 1 in 10. 1 in 10 is a great nonprofit that supports LGBTQ youth that may have been rejected by family or community and sometimes end up on the streets, if you can believe it, those level of challenges. Look, I was lucky when I was growing up. We had some financial challenges, and often we didn't get to do some of the things that friends of mine were able to do. At various times, one of my siblings had some medical challenges, and that took its toll on the family financially, et cetera. But I was so lucky to grow up in a loving family.
That's great.
That I didn't know that. I just knew that my parents supported me no matter what. So I was very, very lucky to grow up in that environment. I would say, though, I also had friends that shared my values. Good, solid people that try to lift me up and not break me down.
Yeah.
I know, like anybody else, I would be at parties and would be offered things that were not good for my health, drugs or whatever. And I was lucky enough to have a solid enough base that I would be able to say no to those sorts of things. And I knew I wanted to go to college, and I wanted to stay on that track, and I was able to kind of stay on that track. And that's why we need to have not just we need to have a supportive community to help young people that may not have that same support system at home to be able to advance their lives and stay on that very, very positive track.
I love that. So coming out of high school, did you know what profession you wanted to get into, or not really? What was your...
So I'm in a weird situation in that I didn't know, none of my family were lawyers, but I got to high school and I really liked public policy. I really liked kind of arguing various positions, and I thought a career as a lawyer, hopefully then to become in public service, was the right thing for me. And throughout college, I was able to stay on that track, and I want to tell everybody watching this video, if you're even thinking about it or not, go to college. It's the best time of your life where you get to study things that you're intellectually interested in. You never get that opportunity later on in life. Enjoy that time. Take advantage of it. So if you have any opportunity. And the other thing I want to say on a similar note is, for a lot of people, college may seem financially out of reach. And I can only speak to my own circumstances. I didn't grow up in a wealthy family. I had to take out student loans. To this very day, I'm paying off my student loans. But guess what? It's the best check that I write every single month. Because that investment I made in myself to be able to go to college and then law school has opened up a world of opportunity that otherwise wouldn't have been opened up. And so I wouldn't be lucky enough to be in the position I am if I didn't have a supportive family and be able to get myself educated. Now, when you go to college and you maybe have to take out a few student loans, live as frugally as you can. Don't drive a fancy car. Get lots of roommates so you can keep the cost down. I ate lots of ramen when I was that cheap ramen that you buy at the grocery store.
Just water.
Because I didn't, so I still have a loan to take out, but I wanted to take out the minimum amount so that I wouldn't be saddled with too much debt later on. But that's just a piece of advice, because I know a lot of young people who I talk to now are afraid of going to college, in part because they're afraid of the cost of college. And I just want to encourage people. It's an investment in yourself, and don't go hog wild, be smart about it, but college is the best time of your life, and it'll open up the world of opportunities for you. So I highly encourage it. For me, it was a great time.
Yeah. Now, what college did you wind up going to?
So I went from Phoenix to Marquette University, which is in downtown Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Okay.
My older brother had gone there. He loved it, and I followed in his footsteps. We had very similar characteristics. And for me to go out of state for college, and kind of a downtown environment, so I got to live kind of an urban lifestyle. It was a great college experience, and I got to serve the community there while in college. So not only enjoyed my academic career, but also enjoyed serving the community there. And for me, it was great.
That's great. Now I understand that you received a JD from the University of Michigan.
That's correct. I went to Ann Arbor for University of Michigan for law school, and I loved Ann Arbor. It was a great time there, and got a law degree, and that was for me that was the right higher education choice.
Okay.
And having that law degree has served me well throughout my time in public service.
Now, for people who don't know what a JD is, what is it and how does it help you in your career?
Well, it's a law degree. And so, look, a lot of people may not want to be lawyers, but a law degree, in my opinion, is still a great degree to have. Many business leaders have law degrees, so they're not practicing law.
Sure.
I don't practice law currently, but I certainly use the skills and way of thinking that I was able to kind of experience during law school. I utilize that in my career as mayor and soon to be as a member of Congress, I hope. And so a law degree is a very good degree to have. But as are other advanced degrees like public policy degrees or public administration, if you're thinking about a career in government service or in either as elected official or in just leading a governmental entity, that's a great degree to have as well. But for me, a Juris Doctor, that's what a JD stands for, but otherwise known as a law degree, was a really good degree to have. It makes you think a certain way, but it helps you throughout your life.
And what profession did you have your eyes set on at the tail end of your undergraduate years?
Okay, I think at that time, I studied political science and history, and I knew by then that I probably wanted to head towards a career in public service.
Okay.
And so, but look, a lot of young people watching this, I'm going to tell you, I'm the unique one.
Yeah.
I majored in history and political science, and I stuck with that major.
Wow.
That's not normal.
Yeah,
Most people change to, their majors a couple times, which is totally, you're supposed to do that.
Yeah.
So enjoy your time in college and study whatever interests you, and you may end up switching. That's okay.
Yeah.
Get a degree in what you really enjoy. But yes, throughout college and finishing college, I thought I wanted to have a track of public service, and it did work out that way.
That's great. So can you talk to us about your time in the City Council, some of your accomplishments, especially as the Deputy Attorney General?
Okay, great. Yeah. So I served for 9 years on the City Council.
Okay.
And I represented a district of about almost 200,000 people. It was a pretty large district.
Okay.
And look, even then, this is in the 2000s, even then I knew that Phoenix needed to build a diverse economy. So I was a lead city council member in the city's investment in something called TGen, Translational Genomics Research Institute, which is a world's leading genomic research facility right in downtown Phoenix that we paid for. We brought leading doctors from the National Institutes of Health to Phoenix to set up this institution. That brought on other doctors from around the globe, literally to Phoenix, and they treat, what they really specialize in is advance treatments of various forms of cancer, help people that may have lost hope in other areas. They provide the most advanced treatment possible, and they want to take cutting-edge research and bring it to people's bedside to help patients as quickly as possible. And I just feel so blessed that I was able to, during my time on City Council, be able to participate in such a worthwhile endeavor.
That's great. Now, what were some of the non-cognitive skills that you learned that helped you through your studies?
Wow, okay.
Yeah.
It's a real interesting question. I guess I would say on that question, look, my parents taught me probably more than anything else is to love people.
Yeah.
Just, and all people.
Yeah.
And so I would say one skill that I try to have is to treat everybody the same, whether you're a CEO of a fancy company or another well-known politician or someone experiencing homelessness. You try to treat everybody with the same dignity and respect.
Yeah.
And that's probably came from my parents, and that's a skill that will help you no matter what you end up doing in life. I don't even call it a skill. It's a characteristic, probably anything else. But you have to really, you have to work hard at it.
Yeah.
It's to really, love people. And Phoenix is a wonderfully diverse city with people
Yeah.
from all walks of life, backgrounds,
Absolutely.
races, religion, sexual orientation. And I want everyone to feel welcome in my city. And I want to take those same characteristics to Washington, where I think that characteristic is probably missing more than it should, and we need more people, more leaders with that mindset.
Sure. Now, what habits and skills would you say really helped you, maybe routines that helped you become successful in your career?
Okay, that's really, well, first I'll address it in, for a lot of the young people watching this are in probably high school, soon to be in college, that we hope. Look, you got to have I don't want to say overly disciplined, but you got to have a reasonable amount of discipline. When you got work to do, you got to do it.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean you have to study 6 nights a week, but at least study 4 nights a week, maybe 4.5 nights a week. It means you can still have fun with your friends on a Friday and a Saturday, but the rest of the time, try to get, take serious your academic career. Same thing in college.
Sure.
So many people go to college and all of a sudden Thursday night becomes a weekend night, And I would say, if you want to go to law school or other advanced degrees, you're going to have to try to keep up your grades and really being disciplined about it as much as possible, which is not easy to do because there's going to be a lot of pulling and tugging you in a different direction. To the extent you can do that, it'll really help your life and career.
That's great. So I want to talk about your staff and the people that have worked for you during your campaign. I'm sure a few of them, or maybe all of them, has stuck out to you as being exceptional performers. As they are exceptional performers, what about their attributes, habits, maybe even the non-cognitive skills? What do they have that makes them exceptional working for you?
So that's the other thing I even should have mentioned earlier, because I mentioned the team that takes to get it done. In my case as mayor, you got to have good teammates on the city council, and you have to have great people around you that share your passion and professionalism and the same goals that you're trying to reach. So having great professional staff makes a huge difference when it comes to being successful. And that's, by the way, that's whether you're in politics or in education or in business or in philanthropy or in medicine. You've got to have a great team surrounding you. Look, the number one thing, the number one characteristic that I would recommend anybody watching this right now develop is when you say you're going to do something, do it. You got to be a reliable person. Someone that your teammates can count on. That you're going to do your part to advance the greater good. And I can only tell people that that is a commodity that isn't nearly as widespread as it should be. I wish so many more people had that particular characteristic. And so, professionalism and reliability, which is in so many ways are two sides of the same coin. That characteristic is so critically important for the success of the greater good.
Now, most people, when they come out of college, they might not necessarily get into the career that they had set to do. For you, what were some of your first few jobs coming out of college? Did you go right into public service, or did you have to, work at Starbucks for a while, or what?
Okay, I'll speak first about the legal profession.
Okay.
I know a ton of hugely successful lawyers. Almost none of them are doing what they thought they were going to do when they were in college. Careers happen.
Right.
And so, number one, you may not start out in the place that you thought, but wherever you are, do the best that you can, because you never know what opportunities are going to come from that. 2, build relationships. Careers are mostly based on relationships. Now, some people would see that and say, that just means the old boy network. Okay, there is an old boy network. I mean, but I didn't have that old boy network. I didn't have any political or business connections. If you don't have that, bake your own. People want to learn about you. They want to get to know you. So for the young people watching this, if there are adults out there that you admire, offer to go get a cup of coffee, or maybe they're too young for coffee, a soft drink, and ask them about their career and how they got to that point. And then keep that person's name and contact information and give them updates on how you're doing.
Yeah.
Because once you make that connection, people are going to want to be your advocates.
Right.
And so, when in my age bracket, we called the Rolodex. Now we call, your contact list or whatever. Get as wide a contact list as you can. Keep in contact with those adults because they're going to be your advocates someday.
Right.
It's never too early, even in high school, to start to get to know people that are going to help you later on in life. Many of the best job opportunities that come your way are not going to be advertised on monster.com or whatever the latest sites are for jobs. It's going to be because you heard through word of mouth that you have a wide network of friends and advocates out there, and they're thinking of you because they met you, they like you, they're inspired by you, and they want to help you throughout your life and career. So don't underestimate how important that is, even as early as high school years.
That's a good point. Now for you, at what point did your career just take off professionally? Do you remember the point?
That's a fair question. Look, so I went to law school.
Yep.
I was lucky enough to work for a law firm here locally, but I knew I wanted to try to get into public service. And the best thing is when a seat came open on the city council, I went for it.
Yeah.
And you at some point you got to take a leap of faith and give it your best shot.
For it, yeah.
And look, the truth is, even after law school, I lived a very frugal life. I didn't drive a fancy car. I lived with roommates, and, in a house. I didn't go out and buy something expensive because I knew that if I wanted the opportunity to enter public service, it was going to mean a pay cut.
Sure.
And I didn't want to kind of take on obligations or debts that would preclude me from the opportunity to enter public service.
Right.
And so that was, for me, that was a smart decision because when the opportunity, and you never know when it's going to come up, but when it did come up, I was ready for it and was able to succeed from there.
That's great. Now, did you notice a drastic change in your life after you got promoted into being the mayor of Phoenix? Like, what was your life like before and then when you became mayor?
Look, the lifestyle of a local elected official is crazy.
Yeah.
You work most evenings. You're working on weekends because a lot of community activities.
Sure.
I mentioned earlier, I'm not complaining, I love it, but the compensation isn't nearly what it would be, for example, practicing law. Every time you do something, people question your motives.
Yeah.
Well, he's really doing it for this reason or that reason. And I try to tell people, no, I just did it for the reason I said it was going to do it. I mean,
right.
But people, they question your motives. You get yelled at a lot. And so most people would say that's not something that they're interested in doing. But if you want to lead your city, you want to make a difference, that's the price you got to pay.
Yeah.
And I paid it willingly. So when you ask, what changes, that's probably the biggest change is that you're working a lot harder for less compensation. And I wouldn't change it one bit. I loved it.
Wow. So how would you like to see students become more engaged civically in the community?
Oh, that's a really interesting question. Okay, young people today, study after study shows that they actually are very active in their community through working with community-based organizations, etc. I'm in politics. I wish young people were more actively involved in politics, that they see the connection between the issues that they're passionate about and how change in the political system can help advance that as well. I think a lot of people, for whatever reason, don't feel that politics will make a difference one way or another. So they're gonna try to change their community in a positive way through other means.
Is there a reason why you feel like students shy away from politics?
It's one of those age-old issues that when people start hitting their late 20s and early 30s, then they start getting politically active. But the decisions that are made today affect their future so much. So I don't know. I just want to do my part to encourage people to participate in the political system and see that politics really does make a difference in the issues that if you care about climate change, you better be involved in politics. If you care about justice reform or changing our justice system, you better be involved in politics. So,
what about parents? How do you think that they can become more politically involved?
Wow. Well, look, I think of course, in my household, I'm involved in politics, so my kids follow the issues as reasonably closely as young people can. But I do believe it is incumbent upon adults to try to impart those traits onto your children, that if you're politically active and care about it, try to get your young people involved at an earlier process. And I'm not naive or Pollyannish. I know there's a lot of households out there which maybe there isn't a history of voting. And I think it's incumbent upon me and others in the community to try to make the case that it's really important that you participate in the political process. It can help your life. What happens in Washington, D.C. isn't completely disconnected from you, that the policies that we adopt as it relates to, for example, healthcare are going to directly affect your life.
Right.
So you better participate in the process.
Right, that's good. So besides your profession, what are some of your hobbies and passions? What do you do for fun?
Well, I'm a really simple person.
Okay.
I love my family and basketball.
Okay. Basketball.
I love to play basketball. I love that my kids all play basketball.
Yeah.
I love to follow professional and college and all sorts of level of basketball. In fact, when I first became mayor, the Phoenix Mercury, our professional women's team that plays in downtown Phoenix, they invited me to practice with the Mercury.
Get out.
And that was one of the worst decisions I ever made, was to say yes. Because I went up for a rebound during the practice.
Yeah.
And Nakia Sanford, the 6'4" power forward, went up a little higher and therefore came down. Her elbow came down right on my nose.
Lord.
And I broke my nose in 2 places
Are you serious?
as a result of that.
Wow.
And people said, well, why do you love women's basketball so much? And I'm like, I don't love women's basketball. I just like basketball.
Yeah.
Whether it's professional, college, men's, women's. Heck, I yell too much at my kids' YMCA games.
Really?
I get too into it. So
you're one of those parents. Huh?
Anyway, so yeah, I really look. I'm so busy that my free time is spent with family, and if I can get a little exercise in the basketball court, I'll give it my best shot.
Sure. So when you're feeling stressed and overwhelmed, are there go-to things that you do to help keep those levels down?
Sure. I mean, look, I love reading. I love through books and articles, exploring the world. So if I can grab a cup of coffee and sit and have 45 minutes to just read, I love it.
Okay.
And so that's how I kind of deal with stress.
Yeah. I'm sure you love your children and you love them to death, and you want to pass down lessons to them. What are top 2, 3 lessons you want to pass down to your kids?
Wow. Well, look, if I can even pass down to my kids 25%, of what my parents passed down to me in terms of, your obligation to help others. Through whatever skills you've been given from God, to use those skills to help other people. That's what my parents taught me.
Yeah.
And if I'm able to somewhat impart that on my own kids, I feel like I've done a good job.
That's great. Anything else you want to say to students and parents watching this interview? Any final words for them?
Okay, that's a great question. I'll just kind of harken back to what I said earlier. If you don't know what you want to do with your career or life, it doesn't matter.
Sure.
Good things are going to happen to you, but the best of your ability, keep your grades up, go on to college, because college is going to be the best years of your life. Don't delay. Study what you want to study, but whatever you do, I would politely suggest that do something that makes a difference in the lives of others. Don't try not to be money motivated. Just do what you care about, and you're going to have a happy life.
That's good advice.
Hopefully.
I love it. We're going to move on to the Acquire app, which is all about taking good advice and translating that into actionable steps. So 8 questions, and then I want to get your advice for students with these questions. Okay?
I'll do the best I can. All right.
So when it comes to productives, what habits and behaviors do you think they should do consistently to help them in their schoolwork?
I would say set aside a dedicated time to do your schoolwork. And even if you don't have a huge amount of homework, just do that extra reading that you might have to do, or work on your, if you have a book report. Just set aside time and keep it consistent. The more you can do that, the better off you're going to be grade-wise. You're still going to have plenty of time to do other things and have fun, but be consistent with that study time.
That's good. Moving on to unproductives, what things should they avoid doing?
That's a tough one, because I don't want to be judgmental, and I don't want to sound like my dad, but maybe I am sounding like my dad. But, these video games are so popular, Fortnite or whatever it is these days. You should have some fun on that. Just not all night and all day. Set aside that time for study time. Set aside time to actually have real interaction with your friends. Not virtual through your headphones, but actually go to time to go meet with them and have face-to-face conversation. And you can still have plenty of time for the other stuff, but just don't let it kind of overwhelm your life.
Yeah. Now, when it comes to ratings, what mindsets and attitudes are essential to success?
Well, look, in my experience, attitude is everything. You got to come to work every day with a positive attitude. Your friends, your colleagues, your teachers are going to take their cues from you. Especially a lot of the students that are watching this and utilizing this social network. They're leaders.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the kind of kids that would do it are leaders. And so your colleagues and your friends take their cues from you. As mayor, I know that. And so I always try to have an upbeat, positive attitude. The future is very bright, and I want people to feel that in me. And I know a lot of the young people utilizing the social network app, their friends are going to take the same cues from them.
Sure. Quiet has something called D ratings, and that just speaks about what mindsets and attitudes should they eliminate from their lifestyles. What would you say to that?
Look, you know, it's easy for us to look on just the downside of things and to be bummed out about this or that, or feel like, oh, the world is coming down too hard on me. I can't overcome this or that.
Sure.
The reality is that we're so lucky to be here. We're so lucky to be where we're at. We're blessed to be here. Don't let the temporary little things get you down. Keep your sense of the big picture, what you're trying to accomplish. And I feel that by not letting yourself adopt a bad attitude or a negative attitude or a defeatist attitude, that's going to make you go a long way in life.
Sure, sure. Are there any open-ended questions that you feel like students should ask themselves in order to become more self-aware?
Well, there's a lot of deep questions you could be asking, you know, meaning of life, etc. But look, I think one question would be, is the activity that I'm doing right now helping me lead towards a positive path or not? You know, what am I doing right now? Is it a positive or is it not positive thing in terms of the goals that I want? And it's so important for young people to have goals. Doesn't mean you can't change them over time, but you know, that way you can always kind of judge each day. Did I spend most of the day trying to advance those very positive goals in my life?
When it comes to inquiries, what questions should they be asking their friends and other adults to get a better bird's eye view and understanding of their life? Okay,
so that's a really interesting question. And I'm not even sure this is the direction you wanted to take it, but I would just say your friends know you well. And they can give you really good, positive advice. If you have the right kind of friends, they're going to help you just like your family members are going to help you on that positive path. Being willing to accept criticism or being willing to accept good advice and still love the person who's giving you that advice. A lot of people, they're so sensitive that they're not able to really accept that advice, and that's to their detriment because your friends love you and they want you to succeed. So I guess the one thing I would say is, if you really want to succeed in terms of good inquiries, is being willing to ask your friends, what can I do, number one, to be a better friend? Any advice, knowing what my goals are, any advice you can give me about how I can advance those goals?
So Quiet also has something called triggers, and this just talks about challenges in life that are going to happen to everybody. So knowing that there are certain challenges they're going to face, what are those, maybe one example of one of those challenges, and then how should they react in that challenge?
Okay, well look, we're all going to have people in our lives that are going to try to bring us down. Say whatever goals you happen to have, no way, you can't accomplish that. Don't you know where you're from? Don't you know that only happens to a certain type of people? And how you respond to negative people is a very important characteristic. Number one, you got to keep a positive attitude about yourself. Maybe you can help guide that negative person in a more positive direction, but you can't internalize it. You know, you've got to stay on your positive path, knowing what you want to accomplish, knowing the steps it's going to take, and don't let negativity or negative people put you on a different path.
That's good. Now, tasks are one-time things that everybody should accomplish in their life. Any one-time things you feel like are valuable for students to accomplish?
Wow, that's a really one-time things that students should accomplish. Well, I mean, look, college is not for everyone, but I think, you know, walking across that stage and receiving that college degree,
Yeah.
no matter what that degree is, you're never going to have that opportunity to do it again.
Yeah.
And so everyone should strive for that, and it's a great accomplishment, not just for the individual person, but your entire family and social network. So,
Yeah.
I mean, we talked a lot about education during this our chat here, but I just, you know, accomplishing those educational goals,
Yeah.
you'll never get a second chance to or be able to do that again.
Sure.
So, and relish that one time that you'll be able to do that.
That's good. Any final words from you, sir?
I love
Okay.
it. So
Yeah.
look, we want as many tools for young people to lead on that positive path as
Sure.
possible.
Yeah.
Positive friends. Hopefully you have a support network through family, either immediate or extended family that help you. And if we can use electronic tools or social networks to help people on that positive path, why not? That's
Yeah.
why I heard about Acquire. I was so excited about it. I thought,
Yeah.
I wish I had this when I was a kid.
Sure,
What a
sure.
cool thing.
Right.
And what a unique way to utilize your friends and social networks to kind of hold each other accountable
Right.
and move on a positive path. I'm excited about it, and I want it to be
great.
hugely successful.
Well, thank you so much for
Thank
taking
you.
time
I
out
appreciate
of your
it very much.
campaign. We've enjoyed this. Appreciate it.
Happy to be here.
Cue the applause music. All right.
All right, it's a long one, yeah. So I got to
Thank
book
you.
out or get my kid.